The chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I start, I want to extend condolence to the family of Jeff Williams, who just recently passed away. He's a MCM, a very strong figure within the Free National Movement that made great contribution not only to the Free National Movement but also to this country, in that he served as ambassador, Bahamas ambassador to Haiti, and was trying very much to implement an agricultural program between Haiti and the Bahamas, as is done between Haiti and the United States. So, Madam Speaker, I want to extend especially condolences to him. He's been extremely helpful to me as opposition and as Prime Minister. But I rise today, Madam Speaker, to make my contribution to this bill. It is essential to our democracy that there be proper oversight of the extraction and the use of our natural resources in the Bahamas. A failure to have proper oversight could result in all manner of corruption and secret deals by public officials. We have seen this corruption before, with oligarchs raiding our natural resources to make themselves even richer at the expense of the citizens of our country. The mining bill, Madam Speaker, establishes the Department of Mining, which would be led by a director. And some of the director's responsibility include overseeing exploration, mining, processing, and other operations authorized by a license issued under this bill, enforcing regulations and monitoring operations of mining, processing, and other mining-related activities under this bill to ensure compliance with the license and the provisions of the bill and regulations, and terminating illegal mining and illegal mining-related activities on any lands. Madam Speaker, this does not include cutting down trees and subsequently burning trees for coal mining, which is very significant here in our country. And one has to wonder if any of the recent fires that we've been experiencing, not only in New Providence but in Family Island, were any related to the cutting down of our trees and burning the wood for the creation of coal. This needs to be stopped and investigated thoroughly. One has to wonder also if it includes the complete destruction and excavation of land, using that for fill, and subsequently destroying lands and creating more ponds. Madam Speaker, those are elements that has to be looked at aggressively. Section 9 addresses ownership and control of minerals, and the bill states that all rights of ownership in and control of minerals in, under, or upon any land in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas and its continental shelf are vested in the Treasurer, notwithstanding any right of ownership or otherwise that any person may possess in and to the land on, in, or under which materials are found or situated. Section 10, Madam Speaker, states that no one shall prospect for minerals or mine unless authorized by this bill. And those who contravene this provision on conviction should be subject to a fine or jail time or both. Approvals would also be required for those doing scientific research. Section 17 to 31, Madam Speaker, seek to provide for the duration renewal, suspension, and cancellation measures and procedures regarding a mineral right. The holders of mineral rights would be subject to various fees to the government. And they would also be subject to profit-sharing arrangements under which the government would be entitled to a minimum of 25% of the profits of the mining operation. Additionally, Madam Speaker, Section 43 states that, 1, a holder of a mining license may be subject to government participation arrangements under the terms of an agreement entered into pursuant to Section 16, under which the government shall be entitled to acquire a minimum 10% equity interest in the holder of a mineral license. And 2, the minister may make regulations to provide for government participation arrangements. Those with mining licenses are also subject to paying royalties to the government. Section 51 of the bill seeks to maximize Bahamian participation in the industry. It states that the holder of a mineral right shall give preference in employment to Bahamian citizens as much as possible. And Section 52 seeks to ensure mining companies purchase goods and services in the Bahamas. Section 53, Madam Speaker, seeks to ensure that a mineral right may include provisions requiring a holder to establish facilities within the Bahamas for the processing and refining of mineral products or other operations that would add value to or transform the mineral products derived from mining areas. These are important objectives that seek to maximize Bahamian participation in this industry. However, it is unclear to me that this legislation has the necessary enforcement mechanisms to ensure that these things are happening. Madam Speaker, we are a well-legislated and legalized society. But we are poor, we are disaster when it comes to enforcement. Enforcement of our regulations, enforcement of our laws. Enforcement, we are a disaster. As a state, we have had difficulties with investors when it comes to enforcing pro-Bahamian provisions in agreements and legislation. Madam Speaker, the legislation provides for a sweeping regulation of the mining industry. It is complicated legislation that will require a well-staffed and well-funded Department of Mining. The government will have to ensure this happens. If not, the noble ambition of fairly regulating mining will fail. The director of the Department of Mining will need to be a very qualified person who is familiar with the sector. Much work will be required to ensure the department has the necessary components to carry out its mandate. I advise the government, the Davis administration, to ensure the Department of Mining is staffed by qualified people, staffed by qualified people, and not just well-connected PLPs. Madam Speaker, today, as I look around, I am concerned. We are becoming too polarized. We are becoming, Madam Speaker, breeders or incubators of hate. We are beginning to disrespect each other. Wow. The member for Cat Island is our Prime Minister. I did not vote for the member, that's not a secret. I did not vote for the member, but I respect him as our Prime Minister. I respect him. And every Bahamian should respect the position. Now, I will cuss him as much as I want in here and outside, but let someone else do that, and I will be all over their backside. It's a difference. It's a difference. Madam Speaker, we need to reset. We need to reset the button. Yes. When new opportunities emerge in the Bahamas under this PLP administration, PLPs primarily get the benefits. PLPs do not have monopoly on knowledge. The FNMs do not have monopoly on knowledge. COI does not have monopoly on knowledge. But together, we have the monopoly. We have the knowledge. And if this country is to move forward, the polarization, the hatred, and the disrespect has to stop. Madam Speaker, if all the jobs in the Department of Mining go to PLP supporters, the department will not be able to best carry out its function to protect the natural resources of the country. I would recall when I was Prime Minister, individuals would have come to me advising that certain sectors, in particular departments, should be completely dismissed, fired, because they were PLP. They voted against us. I disagreed. They were Bahamians, and they are entitled to live just like we are. And Madam Speaker, I took the firm position as Prime Minister that no, I would not wipe out that particular group just for replacement of others. Subsequently, individuals hated me for that position. But to me, that was a good hate. My passion was clear. That was a good hate. And that type of hate, I think all Bahamians would accept. But the hate of each other just because of their politics, yes, we must stop. Yeah. We must stop. Let's move this country forward. Yeah. Madam Speaker, public education will also be important to ensuring that Bahamians understand what this bill entails. There is much misinformation out there when it comes to our natural resources. Bahamians will need to be taught about how the ownership will work with these mining companies and all the taxes, fees, and royalties they will have to pay when it comes to extraction, production, and the sale of our natural resources. The bill, Madam Speaker, seeks to ensure that much revenue will come to the state. However, due to misinformation, many think mining operations occur with no benefits to the state. I support this legislation, and it is important for the Bahamas to develop new industries. Tourism is our #1 industry, followed by the financial services. We need more growth within these industries and the benefit of other industries to ensure we have the robust growth needed to employ our people and develop our country. As it stands, we are growing slowly, and that slow growth is even slowing further. The data the Prime Minister presented during the mid-year budget debate show this. The economy grew by 2.6% in 2023, 1.9% in 2024, and projected to grow 1.7% in 2025. Stopover arrivals were flat last year, equaling the number that came to the Bahamas the previous year. The PLP has failed in significantly boosting stopover visitors. The cruise port that many had objected to is a success under our F&M government. Bahamians who had invested are doing well. The Disney, the port in South Eleuthera, another project under the F&M government, when I was Prime Minister. That facility again is doing well. There are now full employment in South Eleuthera, which was suffering for a very long time. Two great success stories: the cruise port, F&M port, New Providence, cruise facility, Royal Caribbean, Disney, in South Eleuthera. Madam Speaker, if we can develop our mining sector, it hopefully can contribute to helping diversifying the Bahamian economy. What we must ensure does not happen via this mining bill is what transpired in the Exuma mooring deal. Let me repeat. What we must ensure does not happen via this mining bill is what transpired in the Exuma mooring deal. The PLP promised in its election blueprint, quote, "We will adhere to the highest level of transparency as it relates to our natural resources." They broke this solemn pledge to the Bahamian people in the Bahamas mooring deal, which they kept secret. They made this pledge under the banner of accountability. Not only did they keep the original deal secret, the Prime Minister, the man who signed the lease, is now refusing to answer questions on the deal. He had told the country to shut up and stop asking him questions. He is, that's my quotation, he is acting like an emperor who does not have to account to the people. Madam Speaker, I will now speak to the Bahamian people. I ask you a simple question, and I'm going to speak in my language that I'm accustomed to. I'm a Baintown boy, so I can speak in Baintown language. If you employ an individual, and you, the boss lady or the boss man, ask that individual certain questions, and he or she answers just a few and said he's answering no more, he's finished. Is that not insubordination? Is that not disrespect? Would you keep that employee? Would you keep that individual employed? I ask you, in Dunmore Street, in Hospital Lane, where I'm from, would you keep that individual employed, or would you dismiss them? Complete insubordination, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker,
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Fort Howard.
the honourable member for Kalani could be as dramatic as he wishes. The Prime Minister has not made any such statement. It is unparliamentary. It is a negative imputation, which the rules, it's a negative imputation. Read the rules. Please, please, please.
Out of the description
You
there, you forget it.
What this honorable member is putting in the mouth of the Prime Minister, whether the tune or the words are not the words of the Prime Minister. And the honorable member, as a former Prime Minister, as a former Prime Minister, as a former Prime Minister, ought to do the honorable thing.
Don't waste your time.
Do the honorable thing, honorable member.
Thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I did the honorable thing. I spoke in the language the Bahamian people understand. I am not speaking in the eloquency that you bring in here today. But, Madam Speaker, I will table here, listen, listen, I know, don't go down that road. You and I, Madam Speaker, I do apologize, but sometimes the member for Fort Charlotte hit the wrong side. But Madam Speaker, at the end, I will table an article from the Tribune. PM, no more talk on mooring issue. I will table, Madam Speaker. But Madam Speaker, in this latest PLP scandal, a private company was given a seabed lease over thousands of acres to install moorings in our most pristine seafloor. The government had to quickly cancel and deal with the company because of several alarming, well, I don't want to say irregularities. Let me speak to Baintown. Because of several alarming mess-ups. The company had not received the required legal permits, yet it was doing physical works in the exhumus. Additionally, the Deputy Director of Communications in the Office of the Prime Minister signed the lease for the deal as a witness of Bahamas Mooring. Her husband is the president of Bahamas Mooring. I once again call for the Prime Minister to dismiss the Deputy Director of Communications. Further, what are the results of promised investigations on this matter? What are the results of promised investigations of this matter? Did the Prime Minister tell an untruth when he promised an investigation? Did he go back on his word to the Bahamian people? The government had to quickly engage in damage control and stop the secretive deal when it blew up in their faces. Bahamians, including me, I'm a Bahamian, 150%. Okay. Bahamians were outraged that rights to their natural resource were being sold off to private interests who were going to benefit by over $1 billion over the life of the deal. The FNM, Madam Speaker, would have used, I must say, when we were in government, we had looked at that, and we were prepared to establish an authority so as all the funds can be governed or controlled by the government, and consider PPP also. We had reviewed the Australian legislation. We had reviewed, I think, the Bermuda legislation, and the monies would have stayed within the various family islands so as to advance that grouping. The over $1 billion would have gone to the Bahamian people, not to the few oligarchs, whomever they may be. The Prime Minister signed a deal that would primarily benefit a few PLPs. This is the vast difference between the FNM and the all for me baby PLP. This mining bill must not be used in this manner. The PLP must not abuse the national resources of the country to give deals to its supporters, creating oligarchs, while the vast majority of Bahamian people lose out. I do, but I support also the Bahamian people. I just point out what happened. Make sure you don't run out my time, you're slick. You're a very intelligent boy, young man. I have the greatest respect for you, Fort Charlotte. You were a genius when we were at SAC, and that has not changed.
Genius.
The PLP must not abuse the national resources of the country to give deals to its supporters, creating oligarchs, while the vast majority of Bahamian people lose out. There remain many questions about what happened in Exuma and who all was involved with it. We must not repeat this kind of lack of transparency when it comes to mining. The mining bill, Madam Speaker, must come with full disclosure and complete transparency. The people should always know who the players are when deals are made surrounding our natural resources. The governing party should try to change its grabalicious ways and learn to disclose all these deals and no-bid contracts. My question about Exuma still have not been answered. Again, the Prime Minister instead has said he has nothing more to say on the issue. Bahamas, it's written. Don't listen to Fort Charlotte, it's written. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. It's insubordinate. Again, I remind the country that the PLP said in its blueprint, under the banner of accountability, quote, "We will adhere to the highest level of transparency as it relates to our natural resources," end quote. Live up to your promise and answer the questions on the natural resources of the seabed in Exuma. Live up to the promises. Another matter that remains pending from Exuma is that there clearly was a conflict of interest with the Prime Minister's Deputy Communications Director, serving on the one hand as a government official and on the other hand as an agent for the mooring group. As a result of her actions and this conflict of interest, I have called on her to do the honorable thing and resign as Deputy Director of Communications. In actuality, the Prime Minister should have demanded her resignation immediately. There's been no formal announcements that she has resigned. Again, she must resign. Does the Prime Minister condone conflicts of interest with senior officials in his office when it comes to big contracts with the people's natural resources? Are conflicts of interest now condoned in the Prime Minister's Code of Ethics? Madam Speaker, the PLP conduct with the Exuma moorings deal scares us on the opposite side. The PLP has behaved similarly with BPL privatization, the Pike Bahamas Grid deal. There is a pattern with the governing party in which they prefer deals that are not transparent and amount to giveaways to party insiders. Instead of opening up the BPL deal to a wide range of common shareholders, the PLP set the bar at $50,000 to ensure only the big boys could get in on the deal. It is our fear that these same PLP oligarchs have their eyes on our various natural resources via this mining bill. The Prime Minister must change his ways. The oligarchs have already gotten enough this term. The PLP has allotted $250 million, $250 million to consultants. That does not include how much have gone to PLP contractors directly in deals. Prime Minister, you must have mercy. Have mercy. I'm sure you remember the movie. Have mercy. Do not abuse the mining bill, as has been the practice of the PLP. Select independent investors in our mining sector who have a record in the sector. Let there be fair and open bidding. Do not give away the natural resources of the country to PLP insiders. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I haven't reached finish yet. Do I have 2 or 3 minutes? Madam Speaker, I thank you again, and note that Kalani supports the intent of this bill, of this legislation, while insisting that PLP should not abuse the legislation. A question I will be asking. The Honorable, I'll ask this at the end. No. So it'll go on. The Honorable Prime Minister was quoted in a local daily as saying, quote, "The Bahamas mooring matter has been stopped and it's canceled. That's the end of that," end quote. Would the Honorable Prime Minister agree with me that his words send a terrible message and signifies that he believes that he and members of his staff are above the law and should not be held accountable by the Bahamian people? Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Kalani supports the intent, and I'm very careful intent of the bill.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Minnis.